But if you go back in evolution, then one of the big questions is why did our brain grow to what it is nowadays? So that would be, let's say, if you look at the common ancestor with the chimpanzee some 6 million years ago. By that time we had a brain volume of about 400 milliliters. Nowadays it's 1400. So the question is what happened and what were the ingredients needed in order to grow that brain. Of course you can talk about the mutation, what kind of mutations do you need for brain growth, but more important is that if you have a mutation without the nutrients that you need for the brain growth, so such a mutation is not an advantage. So more important is what was the environment in which we lived so that our brain could grow. And that's the point that more and more people are making nowadays, that if you look at the so-called brain specific nutrients, then you will find that those are iodine, selenium, vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin B12 and fish oil fatty acids. And looking all over the world nowadays, you will find that those nutrients are the most deficient, especially in people in developing countries, but also in developed countries. So that has been linked to the shrinking of our brains since the end of the Paleolithic, so let's say some 10,000 years ago. We are losing brain weight based on very good science that has been done. To give you an estimate, we have lost about 1 tennis ball of brain since then, and since then we have also seen an enormous increase in mental health problems. So linking that together, that might have something to do with, of course, much more factors, but one factor would be that we are not eating sufficient brain selective nutrients. And well, if you now look at the evidence that we have from evolution, for what we know, for what happened with Homo sapiens, then you will find from a lot of different disciplines like archaeology, but also anthropology, genetics, all these kinds of disciplines actually give us the opportunity to reconstruct who we actually are. And that's a very simple message. We, of course, come from some ecosystem, and it's becoming more and more clear that that was the ecosystem in which our brain could develop to what it is nowadays. And that's the same kind of nutrients that you need to eat now in order to maintain the brain weight on a long period of time for the human mankind, and also try to avoid especially mental illness, which is nowadays the second, maybe the first chronic health problem that human beings have. Yes. We have to return, let's say, to the Paleolithic era, but not literally. You don't have to be a caveman anymore, you don't have to dig tubers, and we don't have to run after antelopes or whatever. But nowadays we have all these ingredients and knowledge available to us. So we nowadays are hunter-gatherers in supermarkets, that's different. And the point is that you should pick out the right ingredients that you need for your health in general, not only for your brain, but also for your heart, etc., for your whole body. And the interesting part is what is good for your brain is also good for your heart, and that's quite interesting. So all the different information comes together, boiling down to those kind of ingredients that we really need. So it is not that difficult, but you have to avoid a lot of what you will find in the supermarket. And let's not forget, it is not only food that we are talking about, of course. Diet is important, but physical activity is important. Avoidance of chronic stress is important. It is important to sleep well in order to try to avoid chronic sleep loss. We are talking about movement. I'm not sure if I already mentioned that one. Bacterial flora, and everything has to do with each other. I mean, if you are chronically stressed, maybe you're going to smoke. You are going to stand up in the night because you don't sleep very well. You're going to eat all the things that you should not eat. You don't feel that well, so you're not going to do any physical exercise. So what the message here is that we can be focusing on a single nutrient, but that's not going to make the hell of a difference. The difference is actually that we should go back to that lifestyle, but not literally, according to the culture of the 21st century in which we live nowadays. And we have the knowledge and we know how to do that.